I forgave my cheating spouse, but I never got my life back. The day I found out, the air in the room didn't change. The dishes were still drying in the rack. The dog still barked at the neighbor's cat. My phone still buzzed with an email from work. Life kept moving like it didn't just punch a hole through my chest. But I knew in the silence between his words. In the way he said, "It's not what you think." And how that line, so thin and tired, couldn't hold the weight of what I already felt in my bones. People imagine betrayal like a scream, like a slammed door or a broken plate. But it isn't. It's a quiet collapsing, a slow motion sinking. You sit there blinking, trying to piece together which version of your life was the lie, and whether the person across from you is still real, or just a shadow wearing someone you used to trust. And then comes the choice to forgive. Not because you're weak, not because you're blind, but because love once lived in that house, because you remember the hands that once held your child, because the memories, as poisoned as they suddenly feel, still glow in the corners of your mind, and because leaving would shatter everything, and staying feels like the only thing left you can do. So I forgave. I said the words. I clung to hope. I went to bed beside a man I no longer recognized, convincing myself that time could stitch what his choices had torn. I told myself that forgiveness was holy, that it was the path to healing, that we could go back to before if I just held on long enough. But what no one tells you is that sometimes forgiveness is a burial. You bury your anger. You bury your voice. You bury the version of yourself who once trusted without looking over her shoulder. And when everyone claps for how strong you are, how loyal, how gracious, no one asks what it's costing you to stay. No one sees the grief you carry while doing all the right things. They just see a woman who forgave, not the one who lost herself in the process. This is not a story of bitterness. It's not even a story of revenge. It's a story of truth, about what happens after forgiveness, when love doesn't come back the same. And neither do you. So if you're here, quietly unraveling inside a choice the world applauds, but your heart doesn't recognize, I want to talk to you, because I understand. I lived it. And I never got my life back, but I found something else. Something I never expected, and maybe so can you. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't storm out of the house like a movie scene. I just stood there, quiet. Because when your world collapses, there's no energy left for drama. There's just silence, thick and paralyzing. He sat across from me at the kitchen table. Same spot he always sat. Coffee still half full. Same mug he used every morning. He looked almost bored, like the weight of what he'd said hadn't even landed yet. Maybe it hadn't. Maybe the gravity was only pulling me under. Maybe he thought honesty would cleanse him, while it was drowning me. It wasn't just that he'd cheated. It was who he'd chosen. It was how long it had gone on. It was the realization that I had made dinner for him while he was texting her. That I'd laid my head next to his every night, unaware that his heart had already left the room months ago. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was emotional theft. It was time I'd never get back. Conversations I thought were real. Smiles that now felt like masks. Vacations, holidays, birthdays, all tainted, suddenly reinterpreted under a different light. But the worst part? I blamed myself. I searched for the crack in my character that made him stray. Did I nag too much? Did I stop being attractive? Was I too tired, too distracted, too safe? Because that's what we do. Especially women. We gather the shards of someone else's failure and cut ourselves trying to rearrange them into something beautiful. We convince ourselves that if we'd just been more, this wouldn't have happened. We carry shame that doesn't belong to us. I sat on the edge of the bed that night and stared at the floor for 2 hours. Didn't cry, didn't move. I couldn't decide whether to pack a bag or punch a wall. I just sat there, unraveling, quietly, and then the kids woke up, and the dishwasher beeped. And life demanded I keep moving like nothing had broken inside me. So I did what many do. I stayed, because I loved him once, because I believed in redemption, because I thought forgiveness would bring things back. I didn't realize it would begin the slow erasure of me. Forgiveness is painted like a heroic act. In stories, in churches, in quotes on the internet, it's the badge of the noble, the strong, the healed. But what they don't tell you is that forgiveness can also feel like slow self-abandonment. I said I forgave him, and maybe I even meant it. I looked him in the eyes, and I chose love over rage. I chose family over fracture. I chose peace, or at least the illusion of it. But peace doesn't come just because you decide to stay. It wasn't long before I realized I was grieving more than just the betrayal. I was grieving myself. The woman I used to be before the silence. Before I had to swallow my truth every time he touched me. Before every laugh felt forced and every kiss tasted like a lie I agreed to tell myself. He said he was sorry. He did what he could to rebuild. But trust isn't rebuilt with words. It's rebuilt with time, and even then, some walls never rise again. So I played the part. I smiled in public. I posted the family pictures. I made the holidays magical for the kids. But inside I felt hollow, like I'd handed over parts of my soul to save a marriage that didn't have the same heartbeat anymore. And every time I said, I'm okay, I drifted further from the truth. Because I wasn't. I was surviving. I was showing up. I was functioning. But I wasn't living. People applauded my strength. They called me graceful, loyal, forgiving. But they didn't see me staring at the ceiling every night, wondering what it would have felt like to walk away. They didn't hear the way I no longer laughed from my belly, or sang in the shower, or dreamed for myself. I stopped asking for things. I stopped expecting joy. I became a peacekeeper in a war that no one else acknowledged was still going on. Inside me. And the hardest part. I began to believe that this version of me, the quieter one, the one who didn't speak up, the one who wore a tired smile, was all that was left. Because once you've forgiven someone who shattered your trust, the next battle isn't with them anymore. It's with yourself, with the silence, with the invisible wound you carry alone. But what I didn't know then was that wounds can become doorways. And sometimes the deepest hurt can point you back to a part of you that never stopped burning, even under the ash. There's a moment in every long journey where you stop hoping things will go back to normal and start accepting that they won't. Not because you're giving up, but because the person you were before no longer exists. Forgiveness didn't heal everything. It didn't erase the memory of what I saw when I opened his phone. It didn't stop the images that came uninvited when he touched me. It didn't bring back the ease in our conversations, the natural laughter, or the way I used to lean into him without thinking twice. It didn't fix the way I second-guessed my worth every time he looked at another woman in a restaurant. It didn't remove the quiet voice in the back of my head that whispered, "Be careful. Don't trust too quickly." It didn't make intimacy feel safe again. Forgiveness didn't put everything back where it belonged. And maybe it was never supposed to, because forgiveness isn't a reset button. It's not magic. It doesn't erase what happened. It just gives you a way to walk forward while still bleeding. But here's the part I never expected. Even though forgiveness didn't heal everything, it gave me something real. Something I couldn't see at first. It gave me clarity. It taught me what I value. It showed me what I need. It forced me to listen to myself again. Not the voice that had been silenced, but the one that had always been there, waiting to be honored. It gave me permission to stop pretending. It helped me build boundaries, not walls, but lines that said, I will not abandon myself again to keep someone else comfortable. And somewhere in the middle of all that grief and survival, I began to reclaim pieces of me I had long buried. Not in a dramatic moment, not in a movie scene breakthrough, but slowly, quietly, in the way I spoke to myself in the mirror, in the way I began saying no to things that drained me, in the way I stopped minimizing my pain just to make others feel better, in the way I let myself matter again. Forgiveness didn't bring back the marriage I thought I had. It didn't repair the trust overnight, but it gave me space. Space to ask, do I want to rebuild this, or do I just not want to be alone? Am I choosing this life, or am I just afraid of starting over? It gave me the power to choose from a place of awareness, not fear. And that was everything. I forgave my cheating spouse. I stayed. I tried. And no, I never got my old life back. But maybe I wasn't meant to. Maybe the life I had before, the one where I ignored my needs, silenced my voice, held things together with trembling hands, was never truly mine to begin with. Maybe that version of life needed to die so that something real could be born. Forgiveness didn't make everything okay. It didn't rescue my marriage into some fairy tale ending, but it rescued me from bitterness, from becoming someone I didn't want to be, from staying angry for the rest of my life. And that matters. You can love someone and still acknowledge that they broke something inside you. You can forgive someone and still decide to never let them that close again. You can be strong enough to stay and brave enough to leave if and when that time comes. And through it all, you can reclaim your voice, your worth, your story. I never got my life back, but I built a new one. One that honors what I've been through, one that no longer requires me to shrink, to hide, or to bleed quietly. If you're walking through betrayal, if you're sitting in the silent aftermath, trying to figure out who you are now, please know, you are not weak. You are not broken. You are becoming. And whether you stay or go, whether you speak out or stay silent, whether you forgive once or 1,000 times, your healing belongs to you. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You just have to keep walking, one honest step at a time, because you may not get your old life back. But what's waiting for you ahead might just be even more true than what you left behind.